Jen. You're watching CryptoVantage, and I'm joined by Matt Sanders from Avenged Sevenfold. He is launching a pretty interesting NFT project called the Deathbats Club, and he's here to tell us all about it. Hello, Matt.
How's it going? It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you again, too. We met, for everyone who's watching, we met at NFT NYC in New York, and now, where? Are you still in New York?
I'm in Punta Mita at the moment. That's why you see this beautiful wall here of surfboards, and I'm on vacation, but I'm talking to you. I'm happy to be here.
I was going to say, I don't think I would have seen surfboards in New York. Yes, thank you so much for joining me on your vacation. You didn't have to do that. All right, talk to me. Every time I talk to artists, every single time I've spoken to an artist this year, I've asked them this question. Tell me about what life was like for you as a performer going through the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, it was interesting. As a performer, we were in the middle of trying to do a record, and there was a bunch of things that were happening at the time. Not only was LA, where we record the drums and do all these things, there was a lot of Black Lives Matter protests and counter protests going on. So every day that we were trying to use the studio, it was not only COVID, but it was like, oh, the protests have come here, so you can't show up today because there's no way to get in the venue, or there's no way to do this or that. And so it quickly got frustrating in terms of like with the protocols and how many musicians you could have in the studio at a certain time, and what you had to do to sing songs. You had to kind of keep your mask on, and then when you're singing, you could take it off and you had to put it back on. And then you had all the protests going on. So it was very chaotic, and it still kind of is. But we kind of just looked at other things like our families and our friends and just hung out, and like a lot of things that we've kind of put on the back burner that we probably shouldn't have. We kind of had like a reality check of what's kind of important. So there was a lot of growth going on during the whole pandemic thing.
I think a lot of people share that story, maybe in adjacent ways. I think that we can all relate to that introspection, and it's nice to see us coming out of it on the other side. Now, we're here to talk about your NFT project, and so my first question for you is: do you think that NFTs would be going through what they're going through now if it wasn't for the pandemic?
I think it was inevitable that they would go through this at some point, but I think the pandemic pushed forward all sorts of technology, right? You're talking about online meeting places, the Zooms of the world, the more immerse ourselves online and actually find some sort of solace being online with our video games and with all sorts of tech things that bring us closer together. So probably it might not be where it's at right now. It's obviously a catalyst, but I think it was going to get there eventually. But things have been sped up immensely since COVID.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about the Deathbats Club. I know you launched the like, I guess I'm going to call it a promo video. It's a launch video just under or over 2 weeks ago, and it already has over 100,000 views, and your fans are like crazy about it. The only other comment then, like, we're so excited about the Deathbats Club under that video, is asking for more music, and like those people can wait. So tell me about the Deathbats Club.
You're going to get yourself in trouble.
I know.
Downvote. Yeah. So yeah, the fans, I mean, listen, like launching something like this is a big undertaking. And I think one thing that we knew we weren't going to put out a record till at least next summer. And so we wanted to do this now because we could fully focus on it, get people, they don't like when I use the word educate them on it, but get them fully wrapping their heads around what this is and why it's important. And I think they see the word as educating them as condescending, so I'm going to stay away from it. Mm-hmm. But we need to let people know how to get involved, how to buy cryptocurrency, what it is, why Web3 is important, and why we're doing this. And a lot of these things are, baby steps into what we see as the future of the music industry and the future of almost everything, if we want to go that far. But for us, there's a good 6 months here where we can teach people what this is, we can get them involved, and then when the shows start rolling out and the albums start coming out, it's going to make a lot more sense to them. Like, oh, I'm glad we did this then, and we didn't just throw it all out at the same time. It would be very confusing.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that you guys can see where the future of music is going, and you're really committed to bringing your fans along. So the Deathbats Club, I'm going to try and paraphrase, is an exclusive club. Membership is via an NFT. Tell me about how you get the NFT and some of those exclusive experiences and rewards that are attached to it.
Yeah, so we borrowed a lot from the NFT space, right? Like we've lived in the space for the last 8 9 months, every day, being collectors ourselves. And one day the light bulb went off in our head and said, "Oh my gosh, this is so broad that every artist should be doing this." And so we created the Deathbats Club. But basically, what it is and how you get it, which is something you asked, is you're going to do the exact same things you would do for normal NFTs, which is there's a 10,000 collection. It's algorithmically based. You're going to go to the Avenged Sevenfold.io and you're going to mint it. And once things are minted, they go over to OpenSea where you can see them and sell them and trade them on the secondary market. So think Bored Apes, think Cryptodes, think CryptoPunks. It's the same sort of process getting these things.
Do you own any NFTs?
Do I own any NFTs? I have way too many NFTs. Yes.
How many do you have?
Around 1,000.
1,000?
Yeah.
That's incredible. Okay, I guess then this is a conversation we should have another time if there's 1,000
Yeah, I'm
to
a
go through.
full degen. Yeah.
That's awesome. So talk to me about some of these fan rewards. So we hold on to an NFT, and a lot of people are talking about NFTs as a collectible in the space. And there are a lot of artists and organizations that see it as a collectible, but I know that you and the rest of the band see it as something much more.
Well, we do see it as a collectible, but we also see it as a collectible token into a club. So there's all these other things, right? So when I trade NFTs, I don't need all the real world utility. I kind of understand what it means to have these things in Web3 and to have ownership over certain things so I understand the process of what the blockchain does and why it's important, right? So if I'm in Fortnite, I can understand why I would want to own a certain skin, like instead of just renting it from Fortnite, and then giving it back when I'm done with the game. So, but one thing that we felt was important to bring new people in was to have some sort of utility, some reason to want to be in this club. And so that's where the utility came from. And, everything from Discord, perks to giveaways every week to poker nights to even being able to go into our sandbox metaverse and receive avatars and receive clothing in that metaverse. These are all things that we're slowly going to bring people in and have them understand that this is a real economy in here. This is a real thing. And then on top of that, literally last minute, we said, what if we did like 35 or I think it's 36 one-of-ones where we had kind of really special perks? But we don't like to talk about those too much because we're not trying to sell people a loot box. We're not trying to get people to think they're going to get that because it's very rare, right? You might get some golf with me or you might get tickets for life or you might get a meet and greets for life. But those really are rare. And so our job is to really make sure the base perks and the base art is worth the original sale price so that people really feel like they're getting their value.
From an artist's perspective, I mean, maintaining this community seems like a lot of work, a lot more work than you may have had to put in the past. Is that true?
I think it would be impossible to do all this without the blockchain. But since the blockchain is our friend, I feel like all these things are manageable. You just have to hire a good team and keep people. Like, I don't want to be dealing with setting up poker night and all the giveaways, right? Like, I want someone to email me and say, hey, what do you want to give away this week? And I can kind of point to some things and do that so I can go deal with, reviewing the sandbox build out or something different, right? And so you just have to have a good team, people that understand what we're trying to build. And I think the end goal really is to have these tokens so that as new technology and new ways of using NFTs come out, we already have set in stone what this is. So let's say, in 3 years, we decide to put new music on the blockchain. Now, everyone can listen to that, just like you can go into my wallet and you can listen to all my NFTs. You can listen to my Death Beef that I got the other day, which I'm really happy about. And that's free to listen to, right? But I own it. Now, what if we gave the token holders, fractionalized royalties on the songs? Instead of going through Spotify, instead of going through Apple, we were rewarding them by listening. Now, everyone can listen, but they are rewarded because they were early adopters and early believers, and they put in the work, so to say. So this is really setting us up for this future where as things open up, we're going to be ready and we're going to be able to instantly act on things that we feel are coming down the pipe.
Yeah, on that point, there are a few companies I think that are looking into fractionalized royalties right now. Is that where you see the future of music going? I guess, what does the future of music look like to you?
It absolutely does. I think Tidal is going to do something on a larger scale than what these other companies are doing. I think the problem that we have right now, and if we're going to be honest, is that every type of accounting, every sort of radio station, every single way that you kind of incur royalties would have to be on the blockchain for it to work. Like you need to have accountability, right? Like it can't be getting hit, then you still have to hire a lawyer to go, audit these guys and then try to get it. There's no point of being on the chain if it's a very small group listening. But I believe that the young culture coming up is going to prefer to be on the blockchain because they want that accountability. I believe that they're not going to want to sign a record label when they know the record label takes 70% of their stuff. So if you can, as a new artist coming up, you're a DJ or whatever you are, you can go straight to the fans. And as those plays start incurring some sort of royalty, you can share it with the people that bought your token and had the investment in you, right? And so I see that as being a slow build, but I want to be ready for it when it happens. If Tidal came out today and said, hey, we're doing all blockchain, we're the third biggest streaming service, we would instantly jump over there and try to push that narrative. But as of now, it doesn't exist. And I think we're at a certain point in our career where we can't just kind of pull the rug on everybody and say, hey, you got to go over to this very small website, listen to it on the blockchain so that 10,000 people can benefit, right? We have to be very slow and methodical with how we're going to work.
It seems like you have some insider information on the whole Tidal thing here, Matt.
It's just me putting pieces together. Honestly,
okay.
I can be way off. But I don't, this is what I've seen. I've seen Jack hanging out with Jay-Z on a yacht. I've seen Jay-Z change his profile to a CryptoPunk. I've seen Jack talk constantly about Bitcoin and blockchains. I've seen Square incorporate blockchain. And why would you buy the third biggest streaming service when you're obviously not at the level of Apple or Spotify? It's just not that big of a company. You buy it for the rights to the songs and you buy the just whatever that company is at that point, and then you revamp it. You don't launch it as is. So when everything's going crypto, everything's going blockchain, to me in my brain, I'm going, oh, that's what he's doing. It's going to be a blockchain streaming service. I might be completely wrong, but that's what I would bet. I think it's the smartest move.
I think you're right. I've pieced those things together as well. And Jack and Jay-Z seem to have a very close business relationship that only keeps getting stronger. And it is all centered around crypto and Web3. So I think you are exactly right. Both of us, just for the audience, actually don't have any facts other than our thoughts. So that's where that's coming from. All right, so in the launch video, there was mention of the metaverse, and it seems like everyone is talking about the metaverse lately, from Facebook to Time Magazine. And I think it's pretty easy to see how NFTs can live in the metaverse, but how do you think the metaverse is going to play into the future of music, and specifically the future of Avenged Sevenfold?
Well, so we bought land and invested in the sandbox a year ago, and we've been building for a year. So we're going to be one of the first people when they open up to the public, I think, ready to launch. What we always saw it as when we first bought it, we didn't have all of this foresight. We just knew something was going to happen in there. We were seeing that it was very Web3, crypto native, organic growth coming out of the sandbox. I think when I talked to Sebastian at first, he was like, we're going to get Disneyland and Coca-Cola. And none of those people really came, right? It was Web3 native companies like Gemini or CryptoPunks or Pranksy bought land, or, these NFT guys, Bored Apes. And what I think now is that I'm so glad we did it, because I can see online streaming concerts in there. I can see parties for token holders only. I can see areas where you don't have to be a token holder, and it gets you involved and get your feet wet. And you see, this is so much fun. Like, what's behind that door? And then, oh, there's a token to get behind there. You have to own a Deathbats club. Or you have to own a Bored Ape. I see the whole economy of online goods like T-shirts and hats and avatars as being a place where people can come over from Fortnite and everywhere else where they're renting stuff, and they all of a sudden own stuff and they have ownership and they're the steward of their own keys, and they actually, can see what it's like to sell and buy and trade on an open market. I think so many things fall out of the metaverse, and that's why it's so important. It's just hard to wrap it up into one thing, because literally every day it's just something new. But I think the one thing that people can count on: live streaming shows, animated shows, concerts, parties. Parties are going to be a big one, right? Like, you don't have to go to New York to the Vape Fest. You can do that too, but you can just go do the party once every month in, the metaverse. And there could be games set up and video games, and you can own everything. So I'm a huge believer in the sandbox and Decentraland and all these. And I'm more lucky than smart for being in early, because it just happened to get connected with Sebastian and just said, this is cool, let's do it. But now I'm just really glad that we've put the time and the money into building it out.
Yeah, I think your vision for the future is spot on, and it sounds like you're a very big proponent of Web3. I'd love to get your perspective as an artist who I assume intermingle with other artists. Is this the general consensus in the artist community, or is there still a large portion of creators who think that NFTs are a fad or still can't really see how it's going to work for them?
There's a large portion, and it's simply, and I'm going to use my words, carefully. They simply have not been explained what it is and how they can utilize it. It's a huge leap for people to go from having Web 2 their whole lives, where they've never owned anything and they just can right click save and it's as good as this or that. And music was, Napster demolished the old industry, which we look at now, it's going to be fine with Web 3, but it's a big leap for them, right? So say you're a painter and you're just painting every day, and like, why would I see that as putting that on your wall. I don't see any ownership in this other thing because everyone can just share it around. And so once they understand the digital ownership part and that there's digital assets and that they're important to people, and as the culture takes more time to be online, you just explain it. And most of these people, like, they're smart people, they come back 3 months later, 4 months later, and they go, oh my gosh, I get it. And then they just can't stop texting you about it. They can't stop calling you about it because they understand, and like something flips where they go, they get it. So, but we still have a large portion of people that simply either don't want to learn it, or they just think it's some new thing that they can't understand, or they just think it's garbage. And that's why I've been so forward in my push to kind of help people understand it, because I want it to click for them, not because I care necessarily that I just know they're going to be left behind because this new technology, we're not going to throw it away. You're going to have a bus ticket or a concert ticket. It's going to be an NFT someday. So you might as well learn about it now and understand what it is, instead of just ignoring it until you're forced to use it. And so that's kind of where I'm at on it. I just want people to understand what it is.
I think there are no better words to wrap this interview up on. I think you're exactly right, but you're preaching to the choir. And I think doing interviews like this are so helpful, though, and you're very great at stripping away the very technical language and explaining why something is meaningful to a creator or a fan. So good job on that.
Thank you.
No worries. So, okay, before we go, tell me how do we become a part of the Deathbats Club?
So right now you can go to Avenged Sevenfold.io. You connect your wallet, your MetaMask or your Coinbase wallet, and you're going to be on the whitelist. And as soon as the whitelist gets to 9,000 people, we'll shut it off. Right now we're at like a healthy around 5,000 people. So we're going to have to, and it's been great. I mean, we literally had 700 people on the whitelist before the video. And from the video alone, it went to 5,000. So people are starting to understand why this could be valuable. We're probably going to have to, cut the mint size down to 1 per person, because you can't put 2 if there's 5,000 people on it. That will quickly get people that don't get it. So go to AvengedSevenfold.io, sign up your MetaMask, and you will be on the whitelist for December 11th. And we're going to give everyone 2 days to mint so that they can choose the gas fee that best suits them, right? We're going to give them 2 days to kind of figure out when gas is going to be low, and they can get their Deathbats Club. And then on the 13th, it will go to the public if there's anything left.
Matt, thank you so much for joining me while you're on vacation. I will let you go back and enjoy the sun, and I look forward to the Deathbats Club launch.
I'm actually going to go hang out in the sun in the sandbox. It's a fake little beach they made. So no, I'm kidding.
That.
No, yeah.
Oh, I was like, I really love that you're going to go do that.
So I have a token for free drinks, so it's great.
Yeah, it's always good when you have access to free drinks.
Yeah, even in the metaverse. So
yeah, exactly. All right, Matt, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, guys.